All right, dude. Hit the record button. Let's do this. Holy crap, that's loud.
It's perfect.
Which your headphones too loud?
No, the torch.
The torch.
Oh.
It's like, whoa.
Why is there a torch going over there? What's going on?
He's welding.
Welding.
Yeah.
Welding
It's a
my
strange time to
brain.
be doing
Four,
welding.
this 4x4 joint to the strut on the axle.
One.
She's saying
two,
one?
3, 4.
Juan.
What up? It's time for another episode of the Contact Buzz. I'm your host with the most, RJ. Can we start that one over?
Nope.
No? I want to start
Episode
over.
16.
Mulligan, please.
Mulligan.
Let's
I
mulligan.
got it stuck in my throat. All right.
All right.
Welcome to episode whatever this is of the Contact Buzz.
8? 7?
I don't even know anymore.
I think we just did
so many.
That was
six,
six.
and
Yeah,
then
it's a
so
seven.
yeah, maybe lucky number 7.
All right. 7's my favorite number.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Why?
Even though it's just, I don't know.
Is it because 7, 8, 9?
Oh,
It's a good strong number.
that's why 6. is
I
Yep,
get
that's
it. I get
the
it.
type of
I get it.
podcast this is.
Corny.
Hello again and welcome. My name is RJ, as always, joined by two legends, Mr. Guillermo and Mr. Chris, repping Acme Tea, repping California Terpene Extracts. Me, I'm just trying to be the best RJ I can be. It's the only thing I can do. How you guys doing?
fucking amazing.
Bueno.
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 Let's see if I can remember. Very good. Awesome. Before we get into things, as always, ladies and gentlemen out there in podcast land or watching on the YouTubes, that's right. If you didn't know it, we have a YouTube channel where we also upload these videos.
We have a YouTube channel?
We have a YouTube channel.
Oh. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
What is it?
Well, I'd read the link, but it's one of those really crazy long ones that's
that
like
sounds
27 characters, IDs. We're not special yet. We don't have a special link yet. But I will tell you where you can find all that information. That's at acmeteas.com/the contact bus.
Oh, okay.
And then you can head over there,
Cool.
subscribe, like. Also, please share us with all of your friends, your family. Throw us out there. We're, good peeps.
Try our tea. We
Yeah,
think
try
it-
our tea. And if you do
like
all
it.
of the above, as always, Guillermo has promised to come to your house.
We'll give you a foot massage.
And thank you. Thank you, Chris. I was wondering how long before somebody was going to jump in on this with me. If you don't need a foot massage, go ahead and leave in the comments what you would like Guillermo to do when he shows up at your house. Let's keep it PG, people. Or not. I mean, whatever. Fuck it. Okay. What are we talking about today? We're talking
Still don't
about
mean that, by the way.
I think he just prostituted you out of it.
Yeah.
no
I just
no
wanna,
fan fiction, please.
Disclaimer, that's not happening.
He's married, people.
I'm not married, but that's still not happening.
Let's see here. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, we are dabbing on the concentrates. We're gonna be talking about the different types of concentrates today. We're gonna be talking about diamonds, batter, shatter, rosin, hash,
Kief.
Kief, and basically starting with what we know, starting up at the top in there with the diamonds and the batter, which is kind of what's in front of us. Specifically, we're going to be talking about kind of the different, what's different about them in the way that they're made, maybe potency,
Consistency.
how you would consume said item, ideally. Yeah, we'll start with that. We'll see where it goes.
Cool. All right. So back in the day, you had the old school concentrates, right? Which essentially were hash.
How far back in the day are we going in the way back machine?
Let's say the 90s.
90s for sure.
Let's go to the 90s.
That's
right?
way back in the day, bro.
No. I
Bring
mean,
it back to the 90s.
I bet you we got audience listeners that were born after that.
Okay.
It's
Well,
crazy old man.
we'll
90s.
describe how it used to be in fantasy dreamland. Anyways, back then it was just hash, Kief. There was every so often honey oil, right? Like somebody had honey oil.
Which is honey with oil.
No,
No.
essentially that's what butane, like the hash oil
Right.
became.
It was,
They used to call it, butane honey oil, butane
Right.
hash oil.
and
What
it was a golden. It was essentially, yeah.
what is
shot
it?
with
What was it
butane.
though?
And it probably was butane extracted oil.
So you would
You'd get this sappy stuff.
and you just
and
like
you'd throw it on top of your joint, or like put it on the tip of your joint,
hmm.
or put a little glob on the top of your bowl.
I remember the first time I saw, they called it earwax, but that was what batter was.
Mm-hmm.
And they called it earwax, and it was yellow and waxy and everything. And that was like one of the first, butane extracted things I've seen, and it was essentially the same thing that we do now, but I don't know. It was just hard to explain. Like, it was so much different compared to like the hash that I saw before, which was,
Sounds dangerous.
The hash used to be like chocolate. It looked like chocolate.
yeah, you'd have like marble or bubble hash or whatever, which was just, you'd take the bubble bags, which is you take all the flour, all the material, and you put it in a bucket with ice water and these bags, and you agitate the water and agitate the bags, and that's what actually would knock off all the trichromes, and you'd collect that, and then you'd compress it, and that's what like the original hash was. But when you compressed it, it would heat it a lot of times, and that's why it turned to like the darker colors.
Okay, and that is different than Kief, right?
Well, Kief is like the pollen or the trichomes broken off.
Sure, because what you get in the bottom of your grinder almost.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You can
So
press
you have a
that in
screen
the
that's
pucks.
that size of micron.
I think that's
opening.
probably, like, especially for people that may not be super familiar with concentrates, it's probably what most people would be familiar with would be the like a hash rolled or a Kief rolled joint, right? A little bit of like an
Right.
oil on there, and then
And you get
little
enough Kief, you start smashing it up in your fingers.
Sure.
It breaks those trichomes open, and then the liquid comes out, and now it oxidizes, right? And that's where it changes color, and it starts getting sticky.
Well, I think it's also a byproduct of processing, just shaking the plant when it goes through whatever cuttings or storage in the thing. There's always something in the bottom of it. Grinding is going to produce some sort of Kief-like substance.
Right.
Dry sifting.
Dry sifting. That's like the Moroccan style, right? That's where you get a bunch of dried bud.
What's
essentially
the-
break it up, and then
The one that you rub off your hands,
that's live.
live resin.
That would be live resin when the plants are still growing in the field.
Yeah.
Then you go up to the plants, you start rubbing them, and then you rub the next one, you rub the next one, and they would start getting these rolls of resin off their hands. It's called charas, if I'm not mistaken.
Charas.
Charas.
Charas. Charas. Obviously, these are when you're talking about Kief and you're talking about charas. I guess you would call those a natural concentrate. In other words, it's not really being condensed down or changing form so much. It's just the most potent part of the plant.
They a lot of times call them solventless. extracts.
Solventless extracts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's also pressing, right? To get the
rosin
live
pressing.
Or
excess
cold.
rosin.
Cold extraction CO2 would be like, for us, we would use those barrels. The what is it? The
You're talking about using CO2 to like
talking about
freeze
that
the
tumbler.
trichomes off.
tumbler.
Yeah.
What's the name of that? What's the
I
name
don't
of
know.
that?
It's on the contactbuzz.com. We did it.
I know.
Talk to them.
I just can't remember right now. But anyways, that particular device was a big barrel, and then it would
Can't
inject.
imagine why we can't remember it right now.
Yeah, we would inject the CO2 into it, which would freeze
Yeah.
those crystals, and they would break off as it was rolling in the barrel. And at the bottom was this container, or this reservoir, which you would collect it all in. And to me, that seems like just to process a good amount quickly, the way to go. Instead of having to grind it, and you could literally take it from the field, put it in the barrel. You don't have to let it dry out either. So that's a win-win, especially if you have a limited harvest time or you have limited work staff to hang it and get it all trimmed out. So I thought that thing was pretty badass.
Yeah.
It was pretty bad. I still want to buy one of those, actually.
I mean, one of the the big companies that do a lot of rosin and stuff like that, what they're trying to do now is either dry sifting like that, or they're doing like live resin hash pressing, like I was saying with the bubble bags, and then they take the hash itself and press that.
Yeah.
And that's how they're getting like
See,
the super high end.
I think that's
like,
the way to
rosin
go.
oil.
I think if we could take it straight from the field within, let's say, a couple hours, and it's processed out to that that Kief level, that would be the best. You take that, you press it into pucks of hash. That stuff's going to be beautiful. That's going to be like the charas, except instead of rubbing it with your hands, I mean, it's a lot more, I think, extracted, less wasted. That would be badass. We should do that, actually.
So what
We should really do that this season.
that's because there's also that thing that's the water soluble isolate, right? It's the powder also.
Yeah, but that's different.
So that's
but
way
that's what I mean.
different.
That's different. So what's the difference between like basically shaking or the flash freezing the trichomes off, which I understand it's full spectrum. I'm saying let's get into it.
And it's alive.
Right. Explain it to me like I don't know.
So getting the live extract versus when it's cured and been dried out for a long time, you're getting more at once. And
Right, but I mean that versus the other powder. Like how's that other powder created?
Well,
Normally they take the powder you're talking about the ones that you can put in like food or water.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually is normally distillate, which is THC. It's like been processed down to distillate, and then they add in like a different. It's a sugar normally that the THC can bind to the sugar, and that's what makes it water soluble.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's a lot different than like just extracting.
So is that same stuff that we saw that one time with the one place that was like it dissolved under
yeah,
your
we've seen it
tongue?
multiple times,
Yeah.
and from different places. Some people claim that their molecule is so much smaller, so it absorbs better, or some, they have their claim to fame to their process and how they extract it and get it to where it needs to be. But that's you're isolating the band of cannabinoids down to very slim versus like
Right, it's artificially created. That's what I was kind of curious is what it was about. You know what I mean? Versus
Right.
like the stuff that's shaken off of a plant or frozen directly off the plant.
you can't
Different
metabolize that,
trichomes.
so you'd have to smoke it.
Or decarboxylate.
Well, yeah, because
whatever.
that's the whole thing we were saying. It's THCA coming out of the plant. So the live resins and stuff have THCA. Again, then you process it down to distillate, which is THC. So THCA is not active in your body.
Right.
THC is. So that's why when you make the distillate and then make it bioavailable by making it water soluble, it creates different effects. Whereas if you try to eat just like the live resin extract, it wouldn't even get you high.
Right, it'd be more of like doing like a CBD
Yeah.
kind of thing.
No, you'd get a pipe and you'd smoke it.
Yeah, you want to smoke.
And-
You smoke the live resin extracts versus you eat the edible THC. I forget, what do they call that? Powdered cannabis.
Powdered cannabis?
I believe that's actually the term for it. Let me look it up.
Yeah. Good question. But old school days, that was the concentrate. Hash was the way to go
Right.
in the sense of, flavor. And it would also depend on where you were getting it from, because if you're getting it from a reputable grower, a lot of times, what do you got?
It's
Cannabis powder.
Cannabis powder.
What it means for the future of edibles.
I've actually made it before, and the first time I figured out how to do it, somebody showed me, and I was like, "This is way easier than you expect."
Mm.
So it's not that hard. If you have distillate, you just add and reuse tapioca maltodextrin. And so you just take distillate and literally mix the two together. You're supposed to get a right ratio.
Sure.
And then of course you can actually measure out, how much distillate you have will tell you how much milligrams you put into your, whatever
proportion.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually dose out stuff really well that way. And again, because it is water soluble, you can put it in almost any food, dissolves it in everything, and it's still
and it's much
bioavailable.
more precise when you're thinking about dosing. That's really its place in the market. It's about dosing.
Sure.
But if you're going down the whole cannabis road, dosing to me is part of the journey, because that is how you learn and understand and come to what the right dose is for you by experimenting, by trying things out, and going for the ride for a little bit. So
rosin.
I don't find that stuff very effective for me. If I drink the powder, or we just put it underneath our tongue one time. We were at another trade show, and I think we just drank it, put it into a drink. And again, it didn't really take me on a journey or anything like that. It was just very subtle. It was kind of like vaping, a vape pen. Just very whatever. It wasn't like, oh man, I'm super stoned or I'm really high.
Yeah, it was kind of just a blah.
Mm-hmm.
A blah feeling. But back to it. The on the I guess we'll call it the full spectrum or the all natural side of the equation, the non-processed side of the equation. Hash, live press rosins, Kief.
Right.
What else is over there?
You get pretty big spectrum of terpenes, and I think what else is there?
Yeah, like what would people find? Like if they wanted to try concentrate, for example, that was a.
Well, they're gonna find more of what they're gonna find more of what Chris has got.
Yeah,
because I think hash has kind of gone out of style.
And we'll get there. I'm just saying, like, what other type of concentrates are there on that side, the solventless side of the equation?
I think that's about it, really.
Just those?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then we're talking without using some sort of a solvent.
Right.
So yeah, normally they consider like water hash or like bubble hash and all that solventless. They consider rosin solventless, and
you either do it with cold water or let it dry out and beat the crap out of it and then sift it out.
Sure.
And then beat the crap out of it some more until you beat it into like a tarry or a resiny clump. And that type of hash is definitely different smoking wise, because it's almost like it's peppered in with bits and pieces of plant matter and sticks and stuff versus like bubble hash, for example, where you're getting all of that separated.
Right.
And even then there's like different grades, right? So you have like maybe 6 or 7 bags and like 2 on one end and 2 on the other end are just schmagmoid stuff, just crappy stuff, and then the 2 in the middle or the closest to each other.
It's that 90 micron bag, man, the gold.
Right, there you go. And so those would be more of the particulate size you wanted, and thus you would get the best stuff there. The other stuff would be like green and pasty because it was basically this broken down
you're
plant
separating
matter.
out the different material. It's literally a filtration like method. It's like kind of a form of chromatography almost. And so you are separating everything out by the molecule size. So the
trichomes are 90 microns essentially, and then some of that broken up plant matter was even smaller or bigger.
Sure. So it's 90 microns and smaller. It's basically what
it was like I think it is 120, 110, 90, 80, or 90 and 60.
No, I mean like a single bag. If you chose like the 90 micron bag, it would be 90 micron and smaller would fit through that bag.
Yes.
Like a filter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So then you'd get that powder, you let it dry out, then you'd smash it up or press it, and then
sounds so violent.
Well, it's just the process, right? Otherwise, when you're trimming pounds and pounds of bud, you end up tons of scissor hash, especially if the plant was grown well and organically.
Oh, we tried some of that because we did some trimming last season.
Yeah,
just the CBD. What do they call it? Trimmer hash. Scissor hash. Okay, so then moving to the solvent side of the table, right?
Right.
Are we to this point yet, or is there below this?
Actually, sometimes people do try to classify CO2 as solventless.
Well, that one you were talking about was a CO2. It's a frozen extraction.
Yeah, but that's different.
Or frozen live. That's what I was trying to get at. I could have sworn there was more than the 3, but yeah, if it's CO2, is that solventless?
Sometimes they try to, but really CO2 is a solvent, and that's the thing. So
is it? Oh,
yeah. When you're using it, because they use 2 different forms. I mean, it's supercritical or subcritical forms, and that puts it into a liquid state that actually it acts as a solvent, and that's how they're extracting it out. So, but I mean, they have like volatile and then non-volatile, and so CO2 is a non-volatile way. They also classify it like ethanol extractions as non-volatile.
I would think ethanol would be volatile,
but isn't water a solvent?
See, this is where. Oh my god, I'm glad.
So like,
you threw this
if you infused your like, are we solventless then
I
if
have
we're a
that
tea?
argument. I have
Because
that
you're
argument with
using water
people.
as a solvent, right?
Even with like water, like bubble hash, I have that argument with people where I've tried to tell them because I'm like, what you do is like by freezing the trichomes and then using the bubble bags and agitating it, you're just actually knocking off the trichome. So you actually make what they call oh my god, what the hell is it called? It's not us like because normally when you like call something a solvent, it has to dissolve it. It makes a solution. They call that a like the words right there on the tip of my tongue.
We know what you mean, though, and that happens with alcohol, certain proof alcohol, depending on what you're trying to dissolve. It's the same thing with wine or with most any alcohol, but like 100 proof alcohol, for example, evaporates and could be used as a cleaner, could be used as a degreaser, versus like 80 proof alcohol doesn't quite do it because of its alcohol content.
Well, even the most recent thing, like the COVID stuff, if you're going to use like a hand sanitizer, it's got to be 60% alcohol or something like that to be
70%
effective.
or above, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think you could use any alcohol to, like, one of those syrupy ones. It probably couldn't use it. Too much sugar or too much something else in it. But like Everclear, which is basically just pure alcohol, right? It's 100
Right.
proof or 110 proof or whatever the hell it is. That's enough to dissolve cannabis into it. Actually, even 14 proof.
You could use almost any grade of
Yeah.
alcohol. The thing is, though, like then you're using a lot more water. So that's like percentage. But the thing is, like you were saying, you don't want to use like whiskey or something because it has a bunch of other things in it. So Everclear is pretty much just ethanol and water.
Okay, so that's to go back to what you were saying. One of the old school concentrates used to be called a tincture, which you'd essentially take 100 proof vodka or 100 proof alcohol, and then you'd soak cannabis in
CBD
it.
tinctures are all the rage right now.
Right. Yeah, so tinctures have been around for a while, but what you do is you would let it evaporate for a long time, and then you'd end up getting this concentrate at the end.
Okay.
And so you would end up having a liquid form that you could drink or mix with other stuff. So tinctures have been around for a while. So that adds to your old school, but that's an alcohol-based or a solvent-based thing. Then you process, and then we talk about processing, right? That's where you're changing the pressure, changing the temperatures, right? And you're doing it for certain amounts of time to...
Well, see, the thing is, the reason why they consider ethanol extraction non-volatile is because normally you do it at like -40, and you do it under vacuum instead. So for the most part, you're like well below the flash point of ethanol and everything. So you probably won't. A lot of times you can actually hold a lighter up to it and it won't even there's no vapors coming off because it's so cold. So it's like well below. It's like even flammable point at some points.
Well, I mean, again, just being the layman when it comes to this type of thing in the room here, it almost sounds like there should be a different type of classification. It shouldn't be solvent or solventless. It should almost be full spectrum or processed, because any sort of solvent you're altering, you're extracting and then recombining or whatever.
You're dissolving it into it.
Right. Versus like if you're just hitting it with CO2 or taking the Kief or doing whatever, like that's the full cannabinoid profile of the plant, the full terpene profile of the plant, or whatever comes off in that process. Obviously not everything that's in it, but
It's not though, because that's the thing is
No?
when you take Kief itself,
don't listen to me then. I don't know what I'm talking about.
you actually don't dissolve all of the like other like chemicals that are in it. So a lot of times they use, like we use hydrocarbons because you can actually, it's more targeted towards the molecules you want to actually like extract out versus just like trying to like get, the plant material.
Well, and that's kind of what we're ideally going to get into here, because so when we were talking about stuff for this episode, I happened to be staring at some of this glorious, delicious, succulent, just downright tasty California terpene extracts batter.
Mm-hmm.
And then last time you'd also left me with some of those diamonds, right? And so I was looking at the two of them. And to me, again, I don't know how any of this happens, but there's obviously something that's different in the process between like a batter and a diamond, right? There's obviously something that's different in the process between batter and a shatter, right? And so there's obviously
this one
like
right
some
here.
sort of yes, obviously there's some sort of like scale or hierarchy or order to this, right? Like is it one is more refined or concentrated or processed differently?
It's just
Like what's the benefits of, and let's go from the top down. What's the benefits of a diamond versus a batter?
okay. So when we make our diamonds, the big difference is we actually they call it the mother liquor, but so instead of just
Mother liquor?
yeah.
Ew,
So when
mother
you
liquor.
make batter, you normally like you blast into a like Pyrex dish or something that's like
What do you mean
Ki-
blast?
Shoot it out with the tubes.
yeah, when it comes out of the extractor.
Yeah.
So like you have a nozzle and like you open the nozzle up, it starts coming out of the extractor. You put it into like a Pyrex dish or something that's kind of flat.
Okay.
And so you let like a lot of surface area be able to like go across the whole thing and you kind of fill it up only to a certain level. And then you put it in an oven, a vacuum oven, and you put it under a vacuum and then you let it heat for like a few days. And so depending on the surface area and like how it came out of the extractor is kind of how like the consistency it'll make. And or you could also do techniques called like whipping it, which is like when it first comes out, you can actually stir it a bunch and that'll help create more surface area as well. But so that's how you make like shatter and batters. Is a lot of times you just, put it into a Pyrex dish and then you put it in an oven. And
Right.
again, depends on the surface area and like how much is there. And that's kind of how it makes the different consistencies. But with like making diamonds, what you do is you actually put it inside of a jar and then you jar it up with a certain amount of solvent still in there. And so like over time, the solvent will start evaporating off and you put it into the oven as well. But over time,
That's where you get the crystals.
yeah, but because it's sitting in there in the solvent and it's building pressure inside the jar. So the jar has pressure and then you have like a good amount of the, THCA isn't present. And so with the solvent, the terpenes, and like the THCA in there and under pressure, it allows for like the THCA to crystallize. And so that's actually with like most of chemistry. It's like it all has to do with pressure and temperature.
But does the fumes, do those get removed?
Yeah. So the
So
solvent,
you are removing
yeah,
fumes.
the
So
solvent
then-
is constantly being like removed, and so there will be pressure buildups. And honestly, if you don't, like, it's called burping them, but if you don't burp the jars at times, there'll be so much pressure buildup they'll actually blow the lids off.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's basically laying a layer down as it's evaporating and then turning it into a crystal. It organizes itself as a cube or as essentially a crystal.
Mhm.
Right?
I mean, it's
so it's kind of like rocks, like salt or like sugar, or when you boil it, right, and then you let it evaporate onto the string.
Talking about making rock candy.
Right,
Yeah.
rock candy.
Yeah,
It's
that's actually
essentially kinda like-
that's exactly what it really has to come down to is crystallization. Always, like I said, it has to do with pressure and temperature, and so pressure and temperature are like affect each other. So you have to have the right pressure and temperature for it to be able to crystallize properly. And so it's actually it's kind of an art in itself.
Yeah,
Because if
totally.
you change those like parameters, you can create like more like clear crystals, or you can create better termination points, and you can. There's certain things that you
So
can
you're timing
change.
it with the heat, and so that timing and the
It's-
temperature at the right time essentially can make or break the formation
Mhm.
and eventually, the overall end product.
I mean, it's the same
So
thing.
we
with-
tried that with those minerals, my kids. We got I got it. I think it was in DC or something like that, and it was like, at the Smithsonian store in the train station, and they had this rock kit. So I was like, okay, I'll get this for my kids. And we tried one of them, and we just couldn't get it to form.
So
And
another thing is,
I don't know if I just didn't get it hot enough or what, but we boiled it. We boiled the water and added a solution.
so that's the other thing is it's called saturation.
Mm.
So you have like a solution that has more. It's a saturated dose essentially. It has more crystals inside of it than it can handle. So at a higher temperature though, the crystals will be dissolved. So if you have too much water though with what you're doing,
Maybe
the
that's
crystals, like, yeah, if you have too much water and like you they might have all dissolved just because there's too much water. But so if you should put them all in there, and they shouldn't dissolve completely. And then when you heat it up, it'll all dissolve, and then it should crash back out when you like crystallize it. Otherwise, you either have too much water, so it's just gonna stay dissolved.
Right.
But
And we tried heating it again, and then we just basically let this ring around the pot, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we used a seed crystal for that one.
Yeah, that's the other
But
thing.
sometimes
that you can do.
you
Sometimes if you
Use a
seed
seed
it, but
crystal. Right.
so you probably you had too much water. It just dissolved everything. It wasn't saturated enough in your solution to crystallize.
And I
out.
used their cups and everything too. It came with a measuring cup and everything else. And I thought I followed the directions, but apparently not.
You must have missed that one really important.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna just say this right now. I've even had an experiment. It's a pretty simple experiment in chemistry, but it's called you bring things below the freezing point of them,
Okay.
and then you like end up crystallizing them out. And so we took water, and you bring water below 0 degrees Celsius, and then when you
touch it.
Yeah, you touch it, and then it actually like crystallizes, and then it warms up and all this stuff. We couldn't even get the water to fucking do that. So, sometimes shit happens.
Well, we have 2 more packets, and some of them you can add coloring to it, regular food coloring, and and other ones it's just clear. But it was just essentially to illustrate the whole crystallization process. Because I remember back when I was a kid, I did the rock candy thing, and I thought so cool.
Why don't you just make rock candy with your kids?
It's actually not as easy.
Right. And I was...
It's just, you got to have the right... I'm sure the internet's got the recipe, but it's just sugar.
It's the type of sugar
right?
that you use. It's the type of what your water looks like. If it has a lot of deposits in it, calcium, for example.
Yeah, distilled water is most of the things that you're supposed to do is all supposed to be distilled water, so that way there's no other things in there that's again gonna create an interference. So you might have calcium, like he was saying, in there that's an ion, and that actually might be disturbing the crystal lattice, so it won't crystallize out. Or there could be a lot of little things. So in chemistry, everything we do is distilled water or deionized water is one of the other ones we use.
That's interesting because you even do that for off-roading as well. You should take a bottle of distilled water because if your radiator coolant, you lose coolant, you add distilled water, and it doesn't leave all the deposits and stuff.
Unless you drive Frankie and have it just everything's already rusted.
Then it's just a hose.
Just drinks from the hose.
But opposed to bringing, let's say, coolant. Right, you could bring coolant, but if you bring distilled water, you could still use it as water as well for other things.
Well, nothing cools better than water. I don't think even coolant is supposed to be like a blend. It's not supposed to be
right. You blend when you come back and you fix the radiator. You blend it back in with coolant. But I'm just saying when you're on the road, for buying.
Sure.
That's why they always say take distilled water instead of coolant because you still have to carry.
Well, obviously not you, but the chase truck. You mean?
Yeah, right.
Should be loaded with distilled water.
I wish I had a chase truck.
Because, that would just weigh you down. How are you going to make the whoops if you're carrying around 20 pounds of an extra radiator's worth of distilled water in the back?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you got the room for the spare tire.
Just do the whoops close to the
gas
house. Just do the whoops close to the house. In your case, you could totally do that.
No, never doing a whoop again. I almost died the last time I took it. I have to ask Ryan about that one. We took the Raptor off
you
the
dislocated your spine or something?
Oh, my God. It hurt so bad. I thought I was going to have to be airlifted out of there. And I was not going to, man up. I told myself, man up. I got back in that truck. We just kept going. I was like, oh, give me the weed.
That's all you need.
I wasn't driving.
Yeah, they jumped it.
Well, I didn't jump it. Ryan jumped it.
Okay, well,
Ryan was driving.
They were both in the truck. Driving.
I was
co-pilot.
And the guys on the radio ahead of us were like, "Oh yeah, that last set of whoops, man, that was great. Just make sure you gun it." And Ryan heard that, and I didn't know any better either. We hadn't pre-run this stretch at all. Like this was all fresh to us, so we were kind of relying on that. And so Ryan's like, we took it, and we knew we were in trouble as soon as we kind of started coming off the top end of it because there was just no way we had speed to get up over onto this. And it came with bam right into the side. The whole truck just right to the side of it.
And the truck or what?
No, the skid plate left an indentation or whatever. The people behind us called us out. We just pulled off to the side because I told Ryan, I was like, "Oh my God, man, something's wrong. Pull over, pull the fuck over." because the truck was fine, but I wasn't. I was just like, and I got out, and I was just bent over, like, oh my god. And all
That's
like,
terrible.
These guys, they were all like my dad's age and stuff. I mean, I'm getting up there now, but this was years ago, and I was like, no, somebody had already been like airlifted back home, and the whole place had to stop for it and shit. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not gonna be that guy. Oh, I just stood up really, really fast.
Yeah, walk it off, bro. Walk it off.
I got back in. I was like, let's go.
Anyway, he lost feeling in his feet for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
You're
man.
still here talking about it.
Never been the same.
That
since
truck
then,
is still ticking too. That thing took a licking. God bless the Ford Raptor.
You know what? That is a badass truck.
That was a good truck.
That is a badass truck. It needs an oil change bad.
It needs a lot of things
It needs
right
an
now.
oil change bad.
Transmission.
You can only change it
stuff,
at the dealer,
gearbox.
or well, it's like it doesn't have a.
It's something.
bolt or
It's
something.
something wonky. It has nothing to do with marijuana though. Although, man, if we could grow up there, high desert, we could take a look at the San Bernardino stuff. Supposedly, it's permittable, case by case.
I told you the sun will literally scorch every single one of those plants. Like it will not get past June. Maybe July. No,
Atalanto has.
that's
has
all
it
indoor, climate-controlled glass houses.
Well, that's fine. That's what you.
That's
gotta do.
$100,000 a greenhouse, bro.
I
That's
get
a
that.
minimal.
I get
Minimal.
that.
Yeah.
I get that.
That's if we didn't pour
I understand
slabs
that.
and drainage and
I understand.
everything else.
I understand.
No, we're not doing that.
If I had the money, maybe.
Just for fun, maybe. But sustainability-wise, no way. Outdoor is still going to get you the best terpene profile. Outdoor is still going to get you probably the most robust plant. And
Well, 100% on the most robust plant. Like,
yeah, I think
You ain't gonna be doing no breeding outdoors.
I know. I can't breed outdoors now, which is horse shit.
The question is, will Camino Genetics,
Show its lovely head.
right?
Oh yeah. Buddy of mine named Vince, he's been breeding plants, and I mean he's been in the game for a long time, old school. And he had a nursery that he used to supply Home Depots with tropical plants. And so an operation like that would be pretty dope, where you could take tissue samples from like a large catalog, make a clone army as big as you wanted them, just deposit baby plants in a field. I mean, that's kind of what they're forcing us to have to do, either for ourselves or other people to do it for us, because they're saying that we're only allowed to have feminized plant material in the field. And, that and enforcement, how the fuck are they going to enforce that? But
Random inspections. They'll come by and they'll go, "Oh, that one's got pollen
how are you
sacs."
going to tell in the middle of the season a female from a male plant? You
Well, you're
cannot.
not. They probably wouldn't inspect in the middle of the season for that, though. They're going to come inspect when it's that time of the season
Sure.
for that to happen.
Sure. Unless you had auto flowering. And then what happens?
What?
Auto flowering in like July, you have a harvest.
Oh, sure. Well, they probably know that. Remember, you got to turn in the strain.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we need to get that done.
We shouldn't get sidetracked. We're talking about concentrates, guys.
Yeah, concentrate,
My bad.
Guillermo.
My bad.
Concentrate. God.
Again with the tangents. Jeez.
That's why you guys tune in. That's why you
I
love
don't
us.
think that was me. I didn't take us down that one this time. I think it was you.
No.
Yeah,
what?
no, it was you. Actually,
Are you talking about
no, it was
me?
Chris. It was Chris.
I'll take blame for that one.
So, anyways, what is for those people listening out there who have never had any experience with concentrates?
That was me last week. Now I'm a pro.
That's not
Is
true
that
because
how it is?
it's dabs. You weren't dabbing. At
No,
the time.
yeah. I mean, I'm being dramatic for the sake of the podcast, Guillermo. Thanks, bro.
Captain Obvious.
So for rookies out there, let's say
For the rookies out
for my
there.
grandma and grandpa, okay, they want to get into concentrates.
All right, first thing you're going to need is a 3-headed torch, something gold-plated from the looks of it.
Yeah.
You're going to want to need a striker, so you're going to want a smaller torch to light the bigger torch, okay?
It's broken.
Right.
It's
I was
supposed to
thinking
click, it
flint
doesn't click.
and a scraper or something, but whatever. Maybe magnesium flakes. and
Actually,
you
I
light
do,
those
I
on
do,
fire
I do,
first.
I do actually have notes
Right.
on this. I do have notes on this on the dab stuff specifically because last week we were kind of talking about it or whatever, but like this week I did kind of explore the dab stuff and like
Step one.
right bangers versus terp slurper versus bubblers versus fucking
Boobity-boobity-boobity-boo.
Hershey.
Right.
Dude, your mic stand is all up my business. My business.
Okay, so getting back to the the noobs, right? The greenhorns.
Sure.
They're interested in stepping into the concentrates. What would you recommend? Like, what are we going to tell people to give them a safe means of consuming it?
I would say go directly to the 1 gram dab.
Slap dabs.
Dude,
Okay.
if you
First of all, he's
do not pass
bullshitting.
go,
Okay, just
do
stop.
not collect
Just
$200. Go directly to the crazy house.
I didn't want to make him go to sleep or freak out like they're dying. They're
No,
gonna
no,
die.
no.
The paranoia. Nobody wants to be paranoid.
So obviously, it depends on the level of noob or green sauce that we're talking about
Right.
here. I would say, if it's somebody that has already experienced a Kief rolled or oil dipped joint or something along those lines, like that would be the barrier to entry first. If you're talking about smokables,
so
right?
Let's figure this out a different way, right? Let's use
I like
bowls.
to figure it out another way.
Packing a bowl,
Okay.
right, of flour.
Okay.
If you're a greenhorn, let's say, if you can smoke a bowl to the head
To yourself.
by yourself, to yourself,
Not in one shot. You don't have to.
not
iron
in one
it.
shot, but like let's say in a sitting of 5-10 minutes.
Well, no. I mean, let's not be realistic here, because some people like Ben, for example, would nurse a bull all day. You know what I mean? But he would still concentrate it up. Sure, he would. If he's working away, like he's all about the microdose right now.
Yeah.
So if he wanted to get like if he
We're
wanted to do a
saying
Kief topped bowl, he
We're
could
all off.
strip that
It's
out.
the weekend. Okay. Nobody's working. It's the weekend. Okay. And if you can smoke a single bowl of premium flour to yourself
In an undetermined time limit.
within a specific time limit, let's call it 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. Then I believe you can try a tiny little bit of dabs.
And by 5 minutes, he
one
means
hit.
like sitting like 20 minutes or an hour or something.
No, I mean 5 minutes.
No, it's a lot of smoke just for the human body to imbibe in 5 minutes.
Because think about it, you're
all
not if
different.
you only smoke one hit off of a bowl and then you try to dab, you are going to get wrecked.
Well,
Okay.
I think we need to check this out. Let's repack that. I want you to smoke that whole thing by yourself right now.
It's not going to matter for me. We're talking about people who are new,
Sure,
right? But they
Sure.
want to still try a concentrate.
Sure.
So
I'm just saying, like take the time frame off of it. Like, if you can smoke a bowl to
And
yourself,
here's the
then you're
thing.
fine. Like, you're about that point.
I think that's the crest
Right.
of where now
Don't
you
hop into
are
the concentrates
strong
unless you can do
enough
that.
to either that or
That's the point where you
think
leveled
of
up.
like a pinhead worth of concentrate and then one breath of that. Because I don't want people to be going, okay, I'm going to scoop out some of this lovely batter,
But hold on.
let it all melt away, and then, one deep, heavy hit, and kablooya. They're calling the hospital.
Yeah, that sound effect in there. Listen, right? I'm with you. But like, okay, so this hypothetical person, okay,
Where's
hypothetical
pipe?
person.
RJ's mom.
Let's take the bowl equation out of it, because there's a lot of people just smoke joints, right? If you can smoke a joint to
Whole
yourself,
joint?
if you can smoke a joint to yourself, you're definitely okay.
That's
with-
more than a bowl.
Sure, but it's not all of them. Some of them hand roll a loose joint.
Okay, a
I'm just
pinner.
saying, sure, if you can smoke a
It's like a
joint,
toothpick.
if you can solo a joint, right? If like your thing is you take a joint, maybe you put it down, you come back to it later, whatever. But you solo that joint
Of premium flour.
of premium flour, not the freebie that
Okay.
you get down there at the thing, right?
Okay.
Of premium
No
flour.
curls.
The first thing,
Right.
the first thing you should try is an oil dipped version of that joint, or oil dipped and Kief wrapped, right? That would be dipping your toe into the concentrates.
That or just putting a little bit on top of like a bowl.
Sure. If
Right.
you get a little Kief,
Right.
some of your dispensaries out there I've seen will sell you like, you can get Kief for like $10 a gram or something like that,
Right.
in a little like thing or whatever. So you could start there. right?
And that's kind of the same thing with hash and keef. You could sprinkle some keef on top of your bowl, or you could take some hash and break a little tiny piece off and then flatten it out and maybe put it in the top of the
Mix
bowl.
it into your
But
joint.
that's not how you normally would smoke hash. You would take a piece of charcoal, or you take a nail, right? A hot nail.
Right, but we're talking about dipping your toe into it, not just straight up doing a hit of hash.
Right. So work yourself up to a bowl. Then from there, work yourself up to
So
a
from
little
there,
bit extra on the bowl.
Right.
And then from there...
Just the tip first, guys.
Just the tip, Just, break a little bit off on the top there. A little special sauce.
Right.
And then from now, okay, so now you're able to go through and do oil or a keef topped bowl or oil infused joint or whatever it is, right? Now you're ready to step up. You're a blue belt or whatever it is. No, I didn't do karate, but you're ready to go to the next yellow belt or whatever, or the one with the stripes on it. So what is that? That would be like a rosin, maybe a full kind of rosin thing. Or are we starting to get into that realm, or
I mean, rosin.
What's next on the title card?
Rosin's good for a lot of people who don't want to like do anything. Like, some people are like, "Oh my God, solvents, like it's bad," you know. So some people avoid solvents altogether. So rosin's good for that. But truthfully, rosin is just like they have some quality now that's just as good as like all the shatter and batter and all of everything else that we make. So
you'd want to go a little less than a rosin then. Well, not you, but we're talking about
some people. Honestly, a lot of people try out the cartridges. So that's one thing, because that's still an extract.
See, I find bowls are stronger than cartridges, so.
Again, that has to do with how they're made or what they're made with. If they're like processed down to just like THC and then like fake terpene, or not fake, but like, you know, artificial terpenes are put back into it versus is it a live resin
artificial
cart.
Terpenes.
The live resin carts actually have like, you know, real cannabis terpenes.
Made in China.
Yeah.
And we're also talking about only smokables, right? Because if we had concentrates and we were including edibles, you know, there's gummies at 100 milligrams, you know, chocolates. There's all these different...
I think you have to separate smokables from edibles.
Yeah, so we're just dealing with concentrates
as
smokables.
That would definitely say so, because edibles itself is...
It's another animal.
Yeah. And those are extracts, though. Everything that's in an edible is an extract. Even the, you know, butter you have to make is still extracted out. You know, everything that you're making, coconut oil, any of that stuff.
But if you're a noob, just real quick, I'll just say 10 milligrams. Start with that. Don't go any higher than 10 milligrams.
On the edibles.
Noob.
On edibles, yeah.
Warning. 10 milligrams.
If you're not a noob and you got some skills, I still wouldn't go over 50 milligrams at a time, unless you're a pro. Pro is then 100 milligrams, and then you can go up.
Pro
to master,
as in a Guillermo
superhero. I like to hover. It depends on the strain, but I like to hover around 150 to 250, depending.
Weird
on how
flex,
good it
bro.
is.
1,000 or nothing.
No way. Not needed. Totally not needed.
I just take.
That's if
whiff.
I didn't have shit to do all day, and
you mean all
literally
week?
just watch movies melted into the couch.
Yeah, my friend ate 1,000 milligram cookie the other day, and she was like, "Yeah, that thing fucked me up."
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
So what comes after? So if we're not getting into the rosin, or what's like after the cartridge then? Like on the scale.
That's when you get a dab rig. That's when now you're using.
It.
So you know, let's say this little tool, the scoop is what, a 1/4 inch wide versus like, let's say the pick part of it is maybe a 1/16.
Sure.
Would you say? Like, start with 1/16 size first. Just take a little tiny crumble of it or a little tiny bit of it and let that and just one hit and sit there for at least an hour to see how it affects you.
Now, is there different in potencies if you're talking about the different types of shatters and rosins? And
Yeah, there's a huge difference. I mean, some people think that shatter holds more terp profile and other things, but I don't believe so. I believe batter and like diamonds and stuff and like sauce all has like a much higher, you know, THCA profile and the terpene profiles themselves. Like everything about it, like there's just...
Why is that?
I mean, it has to do with concentration of like how much is in there, and so that's like the way that certain things are made. They concentrate down, you know, everything more. And like, you know, that's the whole thing with shatter again. You're putting it in a huge surface area, so you're letting a lot of stuff come off. It's not all concentrated into one little spot. Versus when you make diamonds, you're putting it all in a jar, so it all collects at the bottom and all stays together. So you have a lot higher concentration. But you can still get shatters that are like 80%. I've seen like guild extracts at one point. They actually crystallize THC inside their shatter, and so I've seen some like pretty crazy things happen even across the scale.
It's like their geology.
Jesus.
Creating geology in the lab, essentially, right?
And you were actually bringing up the whole thing about like tinctures and using alcohol. So like I don't know if you guys know what like Rick Simpson oil is, but that's it's a big thing.
Full spectrum.
Yeah, it's a full spectrum alcohol extract. So.
Right. That we can do that with the magic butter machine, actually. Yeah.
We should do an episode on the magic butter machine.
Yeah, so that thing can do alcohol based extract. It can do oil based extractions or like a butter, and
we could do that next episode. Actually, we'll do it here so that people tune in live and check it out, or check out the YouTube channel. They could watch us. We could do a demonstration, but we could also talk people through it, and then while it's doing its thing, because it's got to do its thing for a bit.
Yeah,
we can talk about fucking the podcast stuff. And
yeah, one we were actually a couple trade shows. We went and met with the magic butter guys and
Joey, right?
Joey, great charismatic guy. Totally, I mean, just had this energy about him. Yeah. And he was just enthusiastic about the whole thing. He was really enthusiastic about the machine, and I had to give it up to him because, dude, it's super basic and simple to use. It comes with all the accessories you really need to use it.
Glove.
I mean, for a home application, it's fucking awesome. It's really awesome because you can really control. You start to understand the dosing because you can start with like an eighth, quarter, an ounce. So you can kind of gauge how much you're going to concentrate that into the butter or oil or whatever it is that you're doing it in. And basically it's like, what did he say? Set it and forget it?
Something like that, yeah.
Just push the button and walk away. And
you can find out because there's a video over on thecontactbuzz.com.
Right. Anyways.
Talk to the guy.
So we've had this machine and we've been wanting to use it. And so we've been talking about, what product line we wanted to work on. We were thinking about salad dressings.
Well, those cool guys over there, they gave us a machine because we were supposed to do a video on it a long time ago. So it's about time. It's about time.
So that's why we're going to do the video.
It's about time.
It's come to because I've been wanting to actually take our biomass and make a CBD concentrate, full spectrum, right? And we were wanting to talk about whatever oil was created from that, because I wanted to use olive oil, actually, so that we could put that into a salad dressing. So then we've been thinking about, maybe a Greek or an Italian, possibly a Caesar, and using that as the base oil for the dressing. We've been also talking about a cheese as well, a goat cheese. Still working on that, but we'll see. And a popcorn too. Really, we have an associate that has like 200 popcorn flavors, from like dill pickle to truffle mac and cheese. Like stupid flavors, like ridiculously bomb flavors.
Rockin' popcorn, shout out.
Yeah. So we're hoping to collaborate with him and also have a CBD based popcorn. So we have the popcorn, the cheese, the salad dressings, the drinks, the whole line of drinks. And there you go.
Yeah, we need to reach out to him.
We're not trying to plug ourselves. It's just the point of it is the concentrates and all that. So magic butter machine, maybe we'll make some.
All we do really is work. So it's all we have.
It's all we know.
About. It's our world.
That's all we know.
Welcome to the world of Acme Tea Company. Acme Tea and Popcorn Company.
I think it's going to be Exquisite Foods. Is what we're going to go with that.
Good name.
Yeah. Or it's the Exquisite Food line.
Right.
But
something like that. Anyways.
We have very crazy names. We have Vita Flos Gentium, which means Flower of Life International in Latin.
That's our corporate.
That's what that means. Okay.
That's our,
but everybody's like, what
office.
the Vita? How do you spell that shit? And we thought we were being
Vita
Rico
Flos.
Suave.
I get Vita Flos all the time.
Right. And so it's kind of cool if you...
I think it's missing an accent mark under the I or something like that for Vita. Is it BV? No.
No.
Is there an accent on the A?
I don't think so.
Why do people keep saying Vita?
Because they're American.
Yeah.
in Spanish, I
Well,
is
what
an
kind of
E, a
rubes
Y
went
sound
and named their American company something that everybody in America can't pronounce?
because I'm Spanish. So that's
So
why.
yeah, Vita Flosgenium, VFG for short, is
Right.
Big Mama company.
And then you have the contact buzz. So all of our names have been sort of a little longer on the longer side. So Acme Tea.
But the
Much
contact
shorter.
buzz is also TCB.
Yeah, so that's
Taking
why
care
we
of
did
business.
CTE, because California terpene extract is kind of long, so it's like CTE.
Yeah.
It's so much easier.
If you got a C and 3 letters together, or 2 other letters, maybe a B, then you're looking pretty good for a cannabis name company.
I think we did pretty well with Acme. I mean, that's technically 4 letters, even though it's Acme Tea
Yeah.
Company. But yeah. So I'm excited about that. Actually, next episode, let's do that. We'll do because we got, biomass and stuff like that. Let's just bust it out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do one live here on the episode.
Sure.
Tease it, everybody.
Sure.
Tune
Bum, bum, bum.
in. Where were we, gentlemen?
So
I don't
anyways,
even know
yeah,
anymore.
just dosing. We were talking about like easing into the whole concentration game. Don't have shit to do.
So if
Don't
they do
try
get to the
doing it at
point,
work.
yeah, if they do get to the point where they're doing the dabs, though, they're
Mhm.
going to need a dab rig. And there's a couple different types of bowls. Oh, they're not called bowls. They're called bangers or nails. But basically just harder bowls made out of quartz or titanium or metal or some sort of thing like that, so they can withstand the higher temperatures. If you want to be super safe about it, you're gonna need yourself a little thermometer gun.
Maybe you should put in the description like a list of Amazon linked accessories that people can get so that they can try this.
I will
out.
hunt Amazon to see if we can find those things there for them and help
So
them
RJ's
out.
going to make a list for you guys since I have to go to people's houses and clean their toilets and shit. RJ's going to make a list for you and put it in the link in the description below so that you guys can use some of the stuff we're using or maybe try dabbing at home.
And there's also
doing
always
this.
like the e-nails, so
Sure.
like electric nails, and then they have
I like those.
the peak and everything. I
I
like
really
the
want the
e-nail-
peak. I want to try that thing.
I like the e-nails because they're convenient, but they always get like really gunked up, and then just it's never the same.
Yeah, that's the thing. Maintenance, right? Whenever you're dissolving or you're melting a sappy liquid onto a metal element or a glass element, there is a residue left over. So cleaning, staying on top of it, wiping out your bowl every hit, every time is good practice.
Definitely gotta use Q-tips.
Yeah. Keep it with you. Keep it on. Yeah, if you look at Chris's rig, you have the torch, you have fuel.
Stand by. We got to
You
give a
have
shout
to-
out here to our live viewer over here at CJ.
Oh,
CJ.
What up, man?
CJ just
Hello,
says,
hello.
thanks, love the podcast, loved your Emerald Cup interviews.
Oh,
Glad
nice, thank
you're
you.
back. And then we got a shaka and a thumbs up. What is up, CJ? Thanks for tuning in, bud.
that's awesome. I got a
Much
little
respect,
a
man.
nice
You
feeling in my
rock.
heart on that one. Appreciate it.
Smoke it if you got it, CJ. Smoke it up with us.
Yeah. So, but look at how prepared Chris is. He's got all the tools. He's got the torch, the fuel, the piece.
It is a commitment.
and right. So you need to be prepared. Don't just half-ass it because you're going to end up probably overspending because you're going to have to replace your bowl.
Well,
'Cause it's
I mean,
scorched and, you know,
to a certain
trashed.
extent, I'd like to show off my wares. You know what I mean? Now,
The Rick and
granted,
Morty.
this is
Mhm.
the second one because I dropped the other one this morning and knew we were shooting this podcast tonight, and I had to go back and buy another one.
And there's very elaborate pieces. I mean, you have pieces that are
That was 25.
multi-stage and they had little wheels that spin through it. And
Sure.
it's, they're incredible.
But this was
Works of art.
$25. You know
Right.
what I mean? If you wanted to
Right.
just try it,
That's
30
like three.
bucks
That's
for
like
mine.
3 or
right?
4 grand, I think, for some of these.
Yeah, some
10,000 for
craziness
some of
or
the really
whatever.
big ones.
My friend spent
$20 torch, something like that.
$900, I think it was, on one of his pieces that he just broke recently. I'm like, dude, I spent $25 on the piece. Like, 25.
So yeah, and what's the motivation behind the piece? Does the piece make it any better with all the filtration?
Sometimes yes.
Right. Okay,
Yes.
so
Oh,
you
sure.
do get what you pay for in the strength of the glass and
Yes.
and the filtration. And what we mean by that is how many stages of filtration. And so like hold that up again, RJ. So with yours, you have 1 stage of filtration, and that would reduce, I would say, 20,
technically, because this is a
30%.
terp slurper, there's supposed to be something to do with this double bowl here that gives it not necessarily filtration, but some sort of air action or something along those lines. Like it's supposed to recondense or something like that with it, according to the YouTube videos that I've seen.
Yeah.
But again, too, it's
You
just
said
it's just.
recondense.
I think that was the terms I used.
No, I know.
But
it's funny.
but yeah, it's super cheap. It's got one little space down here for the water, and you could probably run this without water. There's so little water that's actually in this. You know
But
what I
that
mean?
helps cool the smoke or the vapor
Maybe
that's coming off of the bowl.
Maybe.
And it's recommended.
But when you're
for sure.
heating it, it's
Yeah.
so close to this water. You're heating this water too with the torch.
You're not boiling that water, bro.
You're not
Come on.
boiling it, but I mean, the half a millisecond
You
that
got
it
it
is running
lukewarm.
through this warm water, it's not like it's ice water. It's not ice water.
But we're trying to teach the people out in the field, right? Like, hey, look. If you get a dab rig, you're gonna need a couple of pieces to go with it. You're gonna need a toolkit essentially,
Sure.
and then
You're
you
going
want
to
to
need
be in a
these
place
three things right
where
here.
you have an open amount of workspace to try it out, because you got to open up the container and you got to scoop that out. But that happens after you've already heated the bowl up, and then
Oh
that
no,
takes
yeah,
a
you
while.
need the
And then you
carb.
want to have your timer so that you can let the bowl cool down a minute.
You need the
and-
carb cap.
You need the carb cap ready too. So you got to kind of get used to doing these things, because you're not. It's
It's
a
a
completely
ritual.
new
Sure.
thing for you. You've
Right.
never done it, so
And be prepared to singe your
becomes-
fingers a few times.
Yeah.
Or melt
Okay.
the surface. Like, okay,
you
so
may
this desk
discover-
over here has a melt on it already.
Right, and
Right?
may
You were about to
discover-
melt this table earlier because you were doing the torch the
Sure,
same way, because
sure.
it's all about this piece or whatever. So there's
Right.
something about the
If you're
janky
clumsy,
piece.
you're gonna burn yourself. Everybody does. Even when you're not clumsy, you still accidentally touch like the hot bowl or touch something that's hot. My biggest thing is if the torch is hot and you don't pay attention to that,
Ooh,
you touch the
and you
torch.
grab it. Oh yeah.
So these ones aren't too bad. Like these are kind of smaller, and so you're not gonna. This doesn't get too hot. Yours actually might get kind of hot.
This part here.
Yeah, when you have the bigger torches though. Like,
Dude, the first
oh my
torch
God.
that it had a metal ring on it like this too.
It
The
melted.
plastic, it was held by this plastic housing. The whole plastic melted, and the whole thing like
Yeah,
just
you definitely can't get, Don't get a cheap torch.
No, spend at least $15-$20 on the torch. I learned that lesson.
I mean,
He
you
And then
wouldn't
you
even
need
swap
extra
it out
fuel.
for me. It was like I brought it back to him. I was like, "Look at this." It was the next day I brought it back to him. Same guy that sold it to me too, and he looked at it and he's like, "Oh man, that sucks." Yeah, no, I remember you bought that from me. Well, can you swap it out for me or do something or anything like that? Nah. That's it. It's
Also-
like,
Those are
That's what you
final.
call service.
I was like, they're right behind you
That's-
there.
that's-
Like, just
that's a
give me, at
Nordstrom's
least give
for
me a
you.
new one.
Yeah.
Maybe this one was faulty or some shit. Nah,
Yeah.
we just got
No,
those.
they're like, no.
I'm like,
Bro, we
whoa.
just got
Guess this isn't Nordstrom's.
Like,
He's like,
well,
he's
that's
like,
a
well, you
fail
got the
rate
first
already, come
one. I was like, okay.
That's even worse. If you got the first one, be like, dude, this is fucking trash.
Right, that's what I
Right,
mean. Like,
right.
I'd go kick whoever sold you his ass. Fucking
Okay, so
torches
one of the big
suck.
things is when we buy a cartridge, is we buy something that has to be used. It's like we ask them, like, what's the fail rate on these? And if it's above 1%, we're like, fucking no.
Right.
So, like, if you bought something, you're the first customer, that's 100% fail rate. That's the fucking, you want to
That's
send
horrible.
those back right away.
It doesn't even meet government standards on that.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you're gonna need tools. You're gonna need to come up with a technique that works for you.
You're gonna need a
And there's
third arm.
steps.
I found that would actually be helpful. No, there
Sometimes
there
yes.
really is, because you heat it right, and then what you want to do is you want to hold this like you would a bong, and then kind of do the thing or whatever. But you can't. You
It's
kind of
too
have to
small,
stick it on
man.
a table.
It's just too
And then
small.
like gooseneck your head down to it. And this one's tiny. But yours isn't that much bigger, but it's still a little bit better.
It's
I
a
think you've
travel
only got
unit,
a couple
though.
more
That's
inches.
not
on
his
it.
house unit.
This is about the smallest you really should go.
Well, this one was it had Rick and Morty on it.
I have one that has Rick and Morty on it too, and it's tiny like that, and it's a decoration.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
Multi-stage filtration would be awesome. Not necessarily on a travel
I hate
rig.
perks. I hate too much filtration.
Mm.
This is simple, straightforward.
Easy to clean.
Yeah.
Easy to deal with.
But a lot of people use like recyclers, which is like so the water filters through like twice, so it has like a perk and then it filters. It does a bit like they have so many different kinds of glassware now that I don't know, I still just stick to the simple.
Yeah. So, but if you're out there in the interwebs trying to figure it out, those are the base minimums right now. So you'll have kind of an idea of what you'll need. We'll make a list, and then you'll know, okay, you can set yourself up and then come up with your own technique, come up with your own tools. You have spades. He's got the scoops and the points. Everybody's got different
the
type of tool.
tools is all preference.
Right.
Some people like the flat scoopers. Some people like
Shovels,
spades, or whatever else.
Mhm.
There's a million different kinds. You'll find the preference. The big thing too is finding out temperature, and so that has to do
I
with
reckon-
how long you heat it and how long you let it cool. And yes, you can get a temperature gun.
I recommend either a temperature gun or a thermometer. If you can get a high heat thermometer to
I would laugh my ass off if I watched someone drop a thermometer into it.
and shoot mercury all over their face. Don't do that. We're talking about a metal. It looks like a metal stake or like a sensor probe metal, and that will give you a digital readout that will tell you what it's at. You don't want to be over 700 degrees, right?
650.
Do five.
687.
Okay, so there you go. If you're in the 900s, way too hot. You
If it's
changing stuff
glowing,
into
it's
bad
way too
stuff.
hot. You can actually
temp,
you
low
can
temp.
develop a feel for it for sure. Especially
Yeah.
don't touch it, but you can kind of
Your
like your wrist is
Your
the
wrist.
most heat sensitive, and you can.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no, it's still too hot. It's still too hot until you can kind of hold it there for a bit. It's too
They
hot.
also have a little app called the dab timer. So the dab timer is kind of cool because you can set it. You have to figure out what your setup, what you do, but you can set it so it
Dab
has
timer.
yeah. So it has a heat
Downloading that right
time,
now.
and then it has the cool down time. And
It's about a minute.
Yeah, normally the cool down time's a minute, but depends again on your glassware, how you're heating it, what you want, and stuff like that. But the good one is
Earl's dab timer.
I don't know. I think it was just called the dab timer. But it's pretty cool though, because like I said, it shows you the time, and it has different colors and stuff. Yeah, I think that's it. And so it shows you the time for when you heat it, it'll be red, and then I think it goes to blue for the cool down time, and then when it turns green, it's go ahead and hit it.
Yeah. So then that makes sure it helps to ensure that you're not hitting it when it's too hot, which is basically meaning that you're not going to get any bad stuff in terms of changing the chemicals to something negative like a carcinogen in your lungs.
Yeah.
Never a good idea. So that's why we're talking about keeping the temp low and using the timing as a means of manually waiting for it to get to that point, that temperature. Manually meaning waiting till it cools down to that point.
You definitely don't want to hit it too soon, because if you hit it when it's red hot, like he said, you burn the terpenes and you burn everything, and it converts to a different chemical. A, it tastes horrible. B, it's not good for you. It is not healthy. So to get the beneficials, you want it low temperature, so it just vaporizes the liquid and everything instead of actually burning it.
Right, changing it. I think that's it. Now, I don't know. Is there anything else we want to talk about as far as consuming a concentrate? What about hash? Is there any other ways you've used hash other than lining it in a joint or filling it and putting something?
Actually, yeah, there was this one situation. It was up on the farm. I was driving out to the field, blew out my tire, stuck, right? All I had was some chicken feathers and some hash.
Is this a
So
serious
full of
story?
shit.
I'm like, is this
You're
okay?
so full of shit. Good one. You had me for about 12 seconds, and then it was as soon as you said chicken, that was it.
Then no, I think that's it. I think we've
Okay,
covered.
all right.
I think we've covered it all.
Good. If you have any more questions, just send us a message.
Yeah.
If you want us to-
message away, we can answer the
Right?
questions in the next
I was
Yeah.
I was about to say our boy CJ also left us another message there, but
Ask him what show he'd like to see next.
Yeah, whatever topics anybody wants.
CJ, what show would you like to see next? We'll specifically hang out for the 20-second delay that YouTube has so that you can see that and then respond.
And don't say 18 because that would be mean.
No, we talk about cannabis stuff of all nature, and
Right.
inside industry stuff, outside, all that good crap. So, whatever's out there. If you guys have something you want to see, leave it in the comments, obviously.
Yep.
Make sure you follow up over at Acme Tea on the Instagrams, as well as California Terpenes, I think he said it is.
Terpene.
California Terpene on the
7 episodes.
Instagram.
Still can't get it right.
Can't get it right.
Well, I turned my notes upside down. I don't know if you expected me to really remember every little thing here. California terpene, it's delicious.
California terpene.
Look for it at a hopping spot near you. Upcoming Emerald
Terpene.
Cup 2020. Ooh, will there
That's
be
not happening.
an Emerald
Definitely not
Cup
happening.
2020?
That's not happening.
Nope.
I don't think so, huh? Well, October.
Nope. They've
Nope.
canceled everything for this
Really?
year. Yep. No big gathering still.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Maybe not
It's a
2020.
shame.
How about 2021? I don't know. We'll pick it up on the next
Definitely in
episode,
2021.
where we're going to be busting out that magic butter machine. So looking forward to
Oh yeah.
that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. Until then, stay well, be safe, be good humans.
Arrivederci. Hasta la bye bye. Sayonara.
Hasta la-
Adios.